All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Mai Tao, and I'm a co-coordinator of the Fresno County Civic Engagement Table, which we affectionately refer to as the Fresno Table. Welcome to our community conversation. So we are joined this evening by members of our Fresno Table Coalition, of organizations who have been reaching out to voters in Fresno County for the past several months about the November 8th election. Our organizations have collectively engaged with thousands of residents to participate in the 2020 census and the redistricting process, with the intention to ensure a more accurate and equal representation of our residents, including our youth, Latinos, women, Hmong, Punjabi, African American, people with disabilities, and LGBTQ folks are included. Right now, all eyes are on the Central Valley because the Central Valley has become a battleground for progressive ideas and now on issues residents care about. And we're asking what everyone wants to know and what issues are actually moving residents to turn out to vote. So we are thankful that you are joining us from your homes or wherever you're tuning in virtually today. And before we begin that conversation, I just want to share a little bit and set the scene for everyone about what is currently happening with the turnouts for this November 8th election cycle. We know that it's November 7th today. Last day to vote is tomorrow. And I'd like to share that we can see that only 18% of voters in Fresno County have voted so far, and that many youth, which I'm counting as those under 49 years old, still have room to catch up. So we are kicking off this conversation celebrating the milestones of outreach of the Fresno Table organizations. And as you can see, we have reached over 177,500 voters. We have spoken to over 13,500 voters. And that is through one-on-one conversations, over the phone, and in person at the doors. And all of which are over half committed to voting this election. So we are super excited that there's been a lot of great conversations, but yet there are still 20% of voters who are undecided, which is why, again, we're reminding everyone to reach out to your network and to do that final push to have them go out and vote by tomorrow, 8 p.m. at the latest. And just really think about, imagine what we can do if we engage 3 friends and 3 family members from here until tomorrow, the last day to vote. So thank you so much for joining us again for our community conversation tonight. And I want to pass it over to my co-coordinator, Hatsune Aguilar.
Thank you, Mai, for underscoring the importance of this election in the Central Valley and the role that Fresno voters have. My name is Hatsune Aguilar, and I'm also a co-coordinator of the Fresno Table. And as you pointed out, the Central Valley and Fresno in particular has been undergoing a change of leadership and ideas. Our collective work has shown that voters in this region want to see working families benefit from local and national policy choices over corporate interests, and that when engaged, they care about who will represent them and what it will mean to their daily lives. So let's delve into that a little more. What has been top of mind for the voters that you all have engaged during your conversations this election? And then please remember to introduce yourselves along with your response, and I'll open it up and ask maybe Pedro if you could kick us off.
Sure. Good evening, everybody. My name is Pedro Navarro Cruz, and I am an organizer for Communities for New California Education Fund here in Fresno. We engage residents all year long, but now as the election is approaching, our phone bank and canvassing teams have been hearing a lot of residents share their concerns about high housing costs. Some families are trying to figure out how to manage rent increases, or in other cases, have been pushed out of their current homes and are struggling to find another place to live in the area. It is causing families to separate or double up with the other families and to experience a reduction in quality of life overall. But yeah, thank you all for having me here today, and I'm excited to hear from my colleagues in other organizations.
Pedro, we're hearing some of the same situations, and it's truly concerning. My name is Monita Porter. I'm the Assistant Deputy Director of the Fresno Metro Black Chamber of Commerce. And we're talking to residents about reparations and what that could look like for Fresno residents. We're hearing some great things as well. There are a lot of residents that agree with the idea of reparations, 71% so far. And most people want to see economic advancements and housing built into a reparations package. They also would like to see mental health services built in the reparations package, largely due to the impact of systematic racism and how it can affect long-term the mental health of African Americans. So we've been hearing a lot of great things.
Thank you for sharing all of that with us, Monita. It's really interesting to hear, housing come up a lot, and also just that people really care. That's very evident from what both you and Pedro are sharing. They're motivated to participate. Deep, do you have anything you'd like to share about what has been happening, or what people have been hearing from Fresno voters?
Absolutely glad to be with you all this evening and just hearing from Pedro and Monita and so many of those that are actually on the ground. So I want to actually share about, in terms of Fresno residents, what's a specific thing that they're holding very close to their heart right now as they complete their ballots. As we've been talking to people, we've been extremely engaged, especially around Measure C, really talking about people, how they thinking about not only the Fresno County of today, but really of tomorrow. How do we want our transportation dollars allocated via Measure C? We're talking about reproductive health care and how Proposition 1 will help secure California's current protection for access for now, tomorrow, and the future. So it's really around these kind of key issues that we've been most engaged with Fresno County voters and residents, and some of the key topics that they're thinking about and really concerned about.
Thank you. Gosh, there's such a wide array of issues that people are holding close to them right now, and it's really great to hear just this snapshot of what is on the hearts and minds of voters in Fresno County. So we all know that access to reproductive health care is on the ballot this midterm election, and that this is an issue that Fresno Table organizations are hearing about during our conversations with voters. Access to abortion and contraception is legal in California already, but Proposition 1 would place that protection within the state constitution to provide a stronger layer of protection. What are some highlights that you all are hearing from voters about protecting California's access to abortion and contraception? Erica, I'll throw it over to you first.
Hi, thank you. My name is Erica. I am a phone banker with Communities for New California. So I've been phone banking for the past several weeks, and it's been really interesting to talk to voters who are kind of a little weary or fatigued with voting, or don't feel like it's really going to do anything. Because I kind of start off with, hi, have you got your ballot in already? And a lot of people say, oh, no, I'm not voting. And I go, oh, no, why not? And they just say, oh, I don't really think it does anything, or, I don't really know what's going on, so I don't feel like my vote matters. And I say, well, there's a lot of really important stuff on the line this year, especially reproductive access. And I've had many residents that I talk to say like, oh, in California. And I'm like, yeah, we're safe in California for now. But with Proposition 1, it'll really ensure that is going to be a forever thing, right? If federally it doesn't stay protected. And I've learned that it was surprising too, because a lot of people were male and females were selecting, when I asked them what was their important or top priority issue, it was abortion rights. And I was surprised by even the number of sort of registered Republicans that I saw on my screen that actually also chose abortion rights. And I guess like partly forgetting that their party is like continually fighting to take that away. And a lot of people were really surprised when I would mention that it's on the ballot this year. Like, I hope you support Proposition 1. And just keeping in mind that this fight is everyone's, men, women, including members of our trans community, Republican, Democrat, and this fight is far from being over. I actually spoke with an older voter that remembered a pre-Roe v. Wade America and shared that they had a classmate who actually died from a non-medical, what a lot of people refer to as like a coat hanger abortion. And the resident said that we can't go back to coat hangers. And so with that, we were talking about how you can't really prevent abortions. You can only prevent safe abortions. And we need to keep in mind that abortions are healthcare. And another thing I like to think about and know that studies have shown that when women or those that can get pregnant have access to contraception and abortion, it benefits everyone. It's better economically when you have the ability to decide whether or not you want to have children. And it's just an important part of the conversation, and we need to continue having it. I felt sort of like the momentum kind of went down a little bit after the Dobbs decision came through. And I was reminding people even in this election season, as I'm phone banking and calling them, that, hey, this is still an important issue that we need to talk about. And even, like I said, residents who didn't want to vote or were thinking about not voting, when I brought that up to them, that this is something that's on the ballot this year, they were like, okay, well, I'm going to get out and vote. And I was like, yeah, if you don't vote for anything else, like at least let's start there. But it's really important, and it is nice to hear that a lot of people are thinking about it, or are, when they're reminded of it, feel motivated to go out and vote.
Thank you, Erica. Yeah, I think just you sharing that story of somebody who remembers what that was like and how harmful it was even to their personal network, I think that's just really highlights what exactly is at stake. Nancy, how about you? What are your teams hearing?
Yeah, I really resonated with what Erica shared. So just thank you so much for sharing. And that's really similar to what our team is also experiencing. And I honestly did not expect to get so emotional, but when Erica, you just shared your story, I was like, oh my gosh, just not going back, right? I think that is where I was like, we are not going back. My name is Nancy Zhang, and I'm the executive director for Hmong Innovating Politics. We are located in Fresno. In our conversations with Hmong voters, we have also been confronted with our own cultural taboos. For many young and old alike, this is the first time that we're talking about abortion, contraception, or other overall just reproductive health care. And really, like, the questions that we get is like, what is reproductive health care and what does reproductive freedom mean for our community? So it feels really important for us to have these conversations and learn from each other, because at the end of the day, we value and trust in people to make those decisions about health, safety, and the well-being of their bodies and minds, that we are all deserving of a full and healthy lives. In Hmong, the word for abortion is gay to minyo, which is in English translates to the plucking or like pulling of a baby. So you can understand why at the beginning we were definitely very, very nervous about these conversations, because there was a deep fear that we would get, a hostile response from our Hmong voters. But let me tell you, it's been really enlightening, because, our community has been very open to speaking with us about this topic. And if anything, they are so supportive of reproductive freedom. Our outreach specialist feels super empowered by this. And I love seeing them in that way, because we are getting to do the firsthand learning together. They're going to do that with us as HIP, right? So, we are challenging our own assumptions of our community. Our community is educating us as much as we are educating them. Most conversations on reproductive freedom tend to focus on abortions, but we really want our community to know that reproductive health care is that access to safe abortions, and the "and" is really important, because it also includes access to primary care, testing and screenings, access to birth control, and health education. The list goes on, and these are already basic services that are already so hard to access in the Central Valley, right? So it makes absolutely no sense to take them away, putting everyone's health and even their lives at risk. Lastly, we are challenging the dominant narratives that tell us our community is conservative, or they may not be there yet, they may not be ready. But based on the conversations that we've been having, our community is ready and they want to support reproductive freedom, that this is an issue that they care about because it impacts everybody. So before I end, I just also want to give a shout out to my team, my civic engagement team in Fresno, because they are the ones having the tough conversations. So shout out to Tammy, Cindy, and our outreach specialists, who consists of young adults having these conversations and are doing the much needed work that, they have really and truly embodied what it means to stand up for our values and to be unafraid and brave, especially when we talk about reproductive freedom. So just really, really proud of my team in the Fresno region. I'll pass it on to my colleague Deep to share more.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nancy, for giving me the opportunity. I really wanted to share. One is I also want to just push back that reproductive health rights and is just an issue affecting women. I think for me, and I think for many of sort of male identifying colleagues, I think it's extremely important for us to really center how much that this is important for men as well. All members of a family have a vested interest in ensuring that people who are making decisions about their reproductive futures feel supported and trusted. I trust that someone who decides to access abortion or contraception cares and knows what's best for them and for their family. These are personal decisions that are made in consultation with medical providers, and there are also oftentimes a whole array of reasons that go into making these decisions. Really making this about a political agenda is, that's actually not what we need. In some ways, and some of my colleagues talked about it earlier today, there's just one statistic that I really want to really kind of drive this message home. So I have senior citizens in my own family. Those that are over 65 make up 23% of the electorate, about a little bit less than a quarter, an extremely important section of the electorate. Currently, based on those as of November 6th who have turned in their ballots, that section of the community is nearly 50% of those who have returned their ballots. So do we want a group that's important, that's a quarter of our electorate, at this point in time accounting for 50% of those voices being heard? And that's like a challenge I have for each of my colleagues on this. It's of course a challenge to the whole community that we live in, and that's statewide. That's not in the Central Valley. My actual feeling in the Central Valley may even be more tilted, but I think that's something that if we want young folks to have their voices heard, then it's extremely important that we exercise our voices so that we control our own destinies, we control our own narratives, and we control our own futures. And I'll pass it back to my colleagues.
Thank you, Deep. I think you pointed out something really important, and you just saw the graphic there where only 16% of those who voted so far are under the age of 49. And so that's really something to think about with, it's important. We want everyone to turn out to vote, absolutely. But we also really want the vote to represent the people who live in our towns and our cities and the region, right, accurately and in an equal way. So please go vote tomorrow. And especially if you're in that category, you got to show up. I think a few of you, really emphasized how this is an issue that is important to, so many different types of people, whatever your gender identity is, and beyond your age, and also just how important language is, right? Like what you were saying, Nancy, just the way that we talk about the access to reproductive health care, and just that it is comprehensive. It's access to abortion, it's access to contraception, it's access to healthcare clinics, it's access to good medical information without unnecessary medical barriers. It's all of those things. And access to abortion care has been a fundamental part of reproductive care for Black, Brown, and low-income people throughout the country. And the legalization of abortion in the 1970s following Roe v. Wade led to a 9.6% increase in Black women's college graduation rate, according to a study by the Institute for Women's Policy Research. and a higher corresponding rate for women generally. And it highlights again the many ways that access to reproductive health care impacts society at large, right? So just again, it's not just for women, it's not just for men, it's for all of us. And it's really a family, it's a family support when people who are facing these decisions can make them and make them in a safe way for themselves. So I'd like to just open up space for anyone else here to give their thoughts or reactions to the dialogue around access to abortion and contraception nationally or in California. So just one more comment, whether Monita, you'd like to share anything, or Pedro, just let you guys have a moment.
I don't have much more to share. My colleagues took it away with those great points. I would just encourage everyone to go out and vote for tomorrow. Please, please, please find your nearest polling station and vote. It's very important. So I'm just very encouraged that we'll get our numbers up, and the community will show out. So I'm excited.
Awesome. Thanks, Monita. And I think even as we discuss the laws that are protecting the right to reproductive health care, we know that many people still struggle to access reproductive health care. And that's something you mentioned, for instance, Nancy, right? Due to lack of funds, transportation challenges, childcare, and well-documented racism within the healthcare system itself. So placing California's current protection of reproductive rights within the state constitution is just one part of many that will help Black and Brown people access an affordable and responsive reproductive healthcare system that they deserve, that we deserve. So this will not be the last conversation we have or that our Fresno residents will have around this topic, but it's a really good place to start. So thank you. I will pass it on to you, Mai.
All right. Thank you so much for answering kind of the first half of the questions that we have for all of you today. I kind of sped through our original slides with the voter turnout thus far. So I'm actually just going to take a few minutes and ask to pull up the slides again, and then we're going to dive a little bit deeper because the data is actually spliced up into a few different ways. And so definitely want to just take a few minutes to break this down. So again, I just want to highlight and celebrate and congratulate that our Fresno County Civic Engagement Table partners collectively, as of today, has reached out to over 177,500 voters in Fresno County. So together, our partner organizations have tried to contact, whether through phone or through door knocking, 177,500 voters in Fresno County alone. So that is so amazing. We have, just a handful of organizations that are part of the Fresno table, and just really wanting to highlight that. That's great engagement given the amount of people living in Fresno County. So out of those over 177,000, our Fresno table partners have actually spoken to, right, and had one-on-one conversations with the full script, checking in with voters, what they care about, what's motivating them to vote this election cycle, or maybe what are some of the challenges and the barriers, right? And you heard from them directly how some of those conversations went today. So again, collectively, a great milestone. The Fresno table has reached and spoken to over 13,500 voters in Fresno County alone. And then we want to move over to the next slide. This means that over half of those conversations, right? So over half of that 13,500, 52% of the voters that the Fresno table talks to have committed to voting this election, right? So, there are some hard conversations that are happening out there. And again, there are some voters who are motivated by particular issues to vote this election cycle. And then there are still some individuals, right, who are thinking through, how does my voice really count or matter in this election, right? How does one person like me make a difference? And so some of our partners are still having those conversations. And this next statistic, again, is saying that almost 20% of those folks that the Fresno Table partners have spoken to are still undecided if they are going to fully participate in this election or not, right? And so again, everyone that we're speaking to is responsive, but their responses are varied in, feeling connected to the civic engagement process, the democracy that we live in, really feeling connected to issues, or especially living here in the Central Valley, right? Sometimes resources from the state or from the federal level flies over the Central Valley. And so how do folks really feel like they are part of the community, that they're getting the resources, they're getting the funding coming to their neighborhoods through the election process? Are they voting for people who really represent their needs and are really having a positive impact in their neighborhoods, in the streets that they're walking every day, right? And so 20% are still undecided, and we are still working really hard as a Fresno County Civic Engagement Table to connect with those folks until tomorrow, right? Every voter counts, to really have those conversion conversations and to really connect with folks and break down the barriers for them to be able to, vote with their voice and really feel that power that's going to come with turning in their ballot by tomorrow. And then if we can move on to the next slide, if we want to break down the tracker of how many people have actually voted, I want to share some of those to break down that statistic a little bit more. So on the left side of the screen, you can see here, these are the amount of ballots that were mailed out in Fresno County. So you can see that for 65-year-olds and plus, 108,311 ballots were mailed out. And as of now, 42% of those ballots were turned in. That means that our 65 plus, age group is actually the winner for all of the different age groups on who's actually voting and turning in their ballots, right? They are at the highest percentage point. 42% of those people who received a ballot, 65 and older, are turning in their ballots. They are voting that has been already turned in and counted, right? And then if you look, we have some work to do with some of our young folks, right? So our 18 to 34-year-old, which is the largest voting group actually in Fresno County at 151,554 ballots that were mailed out to voters, only 6% have turned them in, right? So that is a raw number of 9,228 voters from that age group that has actually turned in their ballots. So not only are they the lowest percentage of voters, raw number wise, right? They're at 9,000. And of course, you can see with 35 to 49, they're at a 10% turnout right now with a little bit over 12,000. And the 50 to 64-year-old age group is at a 21% turnout, a little bit above 23,000. So that's the breakdown at the age level. If you look at the statistics down below, we have some breakdowns by ethnicity, right? And so we have the largest ethnicity group that did receive ballots, white or others. So that's 249,940 voters that received their ballots. And right now, they are also the highest return rate. So about 24% of that ethnic group has turned in their ballots, right? The next largest group are the Latinos. And so about 196,000 Latinos have received their ballots, and 12% have turned in their ballots, making that a raw number of a little bit over 22,000, almost 23,000 ballots. And then you look at the Asian population, there are about 43,000 voters in Fresno County, and 16% of that ethnicity have turned in their ballots, making that almost 7,000 voters who have participated so far. And one of the last groups that I want to highlight is that the African American community, there are about 10,000 voters who receive their ballots in the mail, and they are turning in at a pretty good percentage, at an 18% of their population. That raw number is almost 2,000 voters, right? And so that's where we're at with the age breakdown and the ethnicity breakdown of who has turned in their ballots so far in Fresno County. And overall, collectively, that means that 18% of the voting eligibility and registered voters in Fresno County have turned in their ballots so far as of over the weekend into today, Monday, November 7th. So hopefully that number doubles or even triples for Fresno County by the time all of the ballots are counted. Again, we have a big push from tonight till tomorrow for you to connect with any friends and family members who have not turned in their ballots. There are so many different ways to be able to vote by tomorrow, whether that's going to a vote center and doing it in person, that's taking your ballot in and walking it in, or putting it in the mail, having it postmarked right before by the end of the night on November 8th, right? So there are so many ways to not have any excuses to be able to vote. And if you do live in Fresno County and you're tuning in with us, we want to highlight that there are, again, many vote centers that you can actually turn in your ballot. Because Fresno County is a Voters' Choice Act county, we are no longer in the precinct polling system, which means that you do not have to go to a specific location to be able to vote. There are a number of locations throughout the county that you could go to at any point from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. on election day, and you can get your accurate ballot based off of your registered address printed live for you at any vote center. So if that is conveniently close to your workplace, but that's not near your home, you can vote on the way to work tomorrow, right? Or vote on the way back from work to home. And so the vote centers are there for you. Right here we have on the screen a QR code that you can actually scan to find your nearest vote center. So please feel free to use this little interactive tool that we have for you to actually find the nearest vote center, again, to whatever is most convenient in your route tomorrow on election day. And I think that's the last major slide that we have. Oh, one more. Okay. And again, we just want to emphasize, right, that are you registered to vote? If you are registered to vote, you can follow our little pathway map here. Yes. Do you have your ballots? If you have your ballot and that actually came in the mail, then please fill it out. Thank you. And remember to put it in the envelope, to sign the envelope, and then find your nearest vote center. You can drop it off again right at the vote center. If you misplaced your ballot, right, then you can actually vote provisionally, and you can also request that at a vote center. And then if you are actually not registered to vote, you can actually go to your nearest vote center and complete same-day voter registration. So we in California are so grateful to have the same-day registration ability, where if you have not registered this election cycle and you want to vote for the first time, you can actually do that tomorrow on election day. So again, go to your nearest vote center. You will have to ask for a same-day registration application. They should be able to give that to you right away. Once you complete that application, then they will give you a provisional ballot on the spot, and then you can vote right then and there too. So we are, again, trying our best to explain all of the different pathways for you to make it as easy as possible to vote, and would love for you all to take a selfie of your I voted sticker, or of you at the vote center, or you turning in your ballot, and tag us on our social media pages and platforms. And so that's something else that we want to just kind of share the excitement for from today till tomorrow, is a really nice selfie of you doing your civic engagement participation and duty. And if you can, again, tag us in any social media post, or make sure that you can share that information with us, because we want to spread the love of you participating in the voting process too. And Hatsune, it looks like you're joining me with part 2 of maybe some more questions that we have for our partners.
Yeah, I think we can ask one of the things we talked about at the beginning of this conversation was just that the Central Valley is a battleground and really is at a tipping point, right? Where our residents and our voters are looking for change. They're looking for something different. And, also our Fresno Speaks survey results have really demonstrated that Central Valley voters can't be pigeonholed, right? That we're not automatically uncaring or tuned out, or also, we don't automatically just think about the issues in one way, right? And so I'm wondering if we can just delve into that a little bit deeper. Just this idea of the Central Valley being a battleground, and ask, what will it take for us to be the tipping point towards these shared values, and for that change to really become more ingrained and a foundation for our area. Deep, do you have any thoughts or ideas in response to this question?
Absolutely. I think what you're asking is one of the most important questions, Hatsune, and it's something that I think all of us on this call are deeply passionate about and really care. I think the statistics that Mai just showed really tell a pathway in terms of how we're going to really make this Central Valley representative of the values, the voices, and representative of the interests of the communities that live here. This is one of the youngest regions in the state, but in terms of those that are voting, or at least feel like that their vote matters, that has not really been seen yet. If we're going to make this really a battleground part of the state, we need large scales of investment. I'll be honest, when I drive up and down the state, when I'm in the Bay, when I'm in LA, my friends get mailer after mailer, flyer after flyer. They see billboard after billboard. And on one level, you can think of this as, for those that vote, sometimes it feels annoying or exaggerative that you continue to get so much. But there's actually a story to be told there. It's which areas in the state investors and those that are very engaged think actually matter. If you do not see this happening to the same extent as Central Valley, it's because statewide this area is not seen that actually matters. Yes, we see some on Proposition 27 or 26 because there's just so much money in those that it actually carries to the Central Valley. But what this lack of investment does is it doesn't actually reach people. It shows that this area is not important. That's an opportunity for jobs and investments. That's an opportunity to really grow our Black ethnic media, our Hmong ethnic media, our Punjabi ethnic media, our Spanish language ethnic media. That is not happening. So I think if this area has become more competitive, that's a sign of the interest of the electorate. It's a sign of the youth. It's a testament to organizations such as those at the Fresno Civic Engagement Table, going above and beyond to really engage with voters and residents where they're at. But I think there's still much work to be done, and we really need partners from across the state as well as across the region if we're really going to make this a battleground area.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing that perspective. And I think what you're saying is so true, and just that real need for an investment in the Central Valley and Fresno and across these areas all year long. And that's what all of our organizations are doing, right? Is we're talking to people all year long, because we know that these issues don't come and go with an election. They are still pertinent and on people's minds, and in their struggle and in their dreams and aspirations every day. So thank you. So just to close us out, I'd love to hear from each one of you, one last push, one last plea, just what words of encouragement would you have for those who are hesitant to vote still? And why are you voting in this November 8th election? And we can just do a round robin. And I'll throw it over to you, Nancy.
Sounds good. Thank you, Hatsune. I'll start off with why I'm voting. I'm voting for a better future. I think a lot about my nieces and my nephews, and I love them so much. And I just think like what I could have had growing up and what supports that I was also needing, and like how I could translate that for just my little nieces and nephews. So that's the why that I'm voting. And then words of encouragement. I think if your vote didn't matter, why do they keep trying so hard to take it away? And like that is where I always go back to. If our votes did not matter, why do they keep trying to take it away? Why do they keep making it so hard for us to vote? So I hope that fuels the fire that, you know, if you're still on the fence about voting, is that your vote matters, and if it didn't matter, they wouldn't try so hard to take it away. So that's like my last words of encouragement for folks. And then I will call in Monita.
Thank you, Nancy. Definitely say that I understand, you know, the intimidating. I understand that even sometimes we talk about language, right? And how it's used, it can be intimidating for folks. And not really understanding the details of all the different propositions and the measures and everything, all the folks that are on the ballots. You know, I want to say that working with this group of folks, we are all sounding boards, you know, for the election. If anyone ever has any questions, comments, or concerns, we have information that's shooting out to the community. You can come to our locations to inquire. If you are intimidated, if you have any questions about where to go, you know, each of my colleagues here on this call can be a source for you. I will definitely say that voting is more than necessary because it assists in defining the destiny of your community. You know, it's needed, and understanding wherever it is that you would like to see your community go, you have to vote in order to place your, you know, your future in your community. I don't know if I'm saying the right words, but definitely, you know, I think about destiny. I think about the future when I think about voting. And so I would really encourage everyone to get out there and just, you know, tomorrow is the day. Vote, vote, vote. I will pass it on to Pedro.
I think it's interesting when folks share that, like, a lot of people don't want to vote because they don't see that investment, right? Like seeing that investment to make sustainable voters out of people, but it's just ironic, right? How a lot of people just into wanting to vote because of the historical what's been taking place historically, right? But I definitely encourage everybody. It's much needed. What personally motivates me, it's of course just thinking back from the perspective of a parent today. Just I mean, I would like a lot more smoother for my family, for future generations as well, right? Me, what we can make out of our community if we vote, if we make the best, just make our communities as beautiful, as resourceful as we really can be. I mean, the resources are there. We just need to get active and sway them our way. Things will change for the better. And so, if you're on the fence about voting, just think about we can make Fresno County the place that we can all be proud of. But getting out of that comfort zone and just being sustainable voters, and the sky's the future from there, right? But I'll leave it there and I'll pass it. Go.
Erica, do you have any words of encouragement or just something you want to share about what's motivating you to turn out to vote right now?
Oh yeah, for sure. Sorry, I didn't hear the name. Voting is really important. Just kind of dovetailing off of what we were talking about earlier with access to with like reproductive rights, is I've been kind of thinking a lot about the term like pro-life, and I kind of want to rebrand it or like steal it back to really mean the preservation of life for all inhabitants of this planet, human, animal, bacterial, like alike, that we really push for prosperity for all things. And we got to start first of all with like addressing the climate crisis, of course, so we have a place to live. And trying to get to the point where we meet people where they're at, and that's kind of, and it kind of starts with voting. Like there are these measures that come about, these propositions, these issues that are important to people that need to be addressed and are. And so I heard a quote today on this podcast that I listened to. I couldn't find the exact quote, but it was something to the effect of, you're gonna have to climb either way, but elections make it determine whether you're climbing a hill or a mountain. So that really resonated with me, that like, yeah, it's always kind of be a struggle, even when we feel like things aren't working or we're not winning necessarily, that the fight continues. And I even just think about how far we've come just with different laws that have been passed, or even laws that have been abolished that were not helpful for people. So it's a step in the right direction. And that's when we need to keep climbing. And so climbing's exhausted, like in any way you do it, even if you're a professional climber, even if you've trained for a while, even if you conditioned yourself, it's always going to be hard, but it doesn't mean you stop, because otherwise you're just going to go down. So yeah, and I'll pass it on to Deep.
Very wise words, Erica. Hard to follow. I think my message would be like, I kind of get it. I'm not like Puff Daddy. I'm not going to come at you with like a vote or die. I actually get why, to be honest, a lot of people don't. It can be tough. When every election feels like the most important ever, it gets burdensome, it gets tiring, it gets exhausting. I get it. So what I will still say is, voting is necessary, but not sufficient for our democracy. It is absolutely necessary. If you have the opportunity to vote, you absolutely should vote. It's crazy. Like when I talk to, I'm gonna be honest with you, when I talk to like one of my white friends, especially those that are older, when I say, why are you voting? They say, because there's an election. When I talk to young folks or people of color, I say, why are you voting? They're like, oh, I don't know. It's about this issue, or there's an issue that like interests me this time. And I'm like, how do we get it to there where we vote because there's an election? Because either you're at the table or you're the lunch. And it's really that choice is yours. And this is a choice that we're effectively making together. And so it's extremely important that we have a voice, we have a say in our destiny, in our future, and what is going to be our collective Fresno, in our collective California, and our collective United States. And so voting is one way for us to put our voices together. It is not the only way. There are a lot of other ways, but we invite you, whether it be any of the organizations here, whether it be an organization not here, whether it's starting your own organization, but get involved, be part of your community, be part of your neighborhood, and be part of what we're trying to do collectively together. Your community needs you, we need you. And again, voting is a necessary, but it's not sufficient as the only ways to get involved.
Thank you. Thank you all. This is something that I've been pondering a lot, is just trying to figure out what was my own route. Like why has voting always felt like it was so instrumental, or why it was so important? And I think that the way that you all shared helped me just further my own reflections from what you said, Nancy, that, this is just how important it is, but also it's people are trying to take it away. And if it wasn't important, then people wouldn't be trying to take it away. Or what you were sharing, Erica, just this is, if you don't keep climbing that mountain, oh, where are you going? You're going to go down. And certainly, Deep, we don't want to be lunch. And I think Monita and Pedro, what you were saying too, just hit it on the head on the nail too, where we want to be proud, right? We're looking at our future generations and we know what's possible, and we want to be proud of Fresno. We want to be proud of where we live. We want to be proud of what it is that we're bringing to the table ultimately. I think for me, something that I've been reflecting on is just how each person's vote really actually does count, right? We've seen countless elections where something was determined by 300 people. Imagine if any one of those people had not shown up. What would that have done to X, Y, or Z issue or X, Y, or Z moment? And just, we're all, it can feel like we're just a grain of sand, but at the end of the day, a grain of sand fills the beach. So I hope people take what you all are saying to heart. And Maya, just wonder if you have any last words yourself, or what it is that you're holding dear right now in this election, and then you can close us out.
Well, first, we already know the Fresno Table partners are so amazing, but as a co-coordinator, I am just still so proud of the individuals, whether that's the staff or the volunteers like Erica, who's with us tonight, like just doing this amazing boots on the ground work. I know, Jakarta, you have, hundreds of youth volunteers roaming the state with, at the doors and phone banking. And Monita, your team really also, really having those hard conversations around racial justice in the middle of this election cycle too, right? And Nancy, we know that Hmong Innovating Politics is reaching out to a community that mainstream has not necessarily tried to, or larger campaigns, right? And electeds have not reached out to the Hmong and Southeast Asian community. And there's still so many issues around language justice and language access and all of those great things. And so again, everything that you all said is just so moving. So I just want to thank you all for being here with us tonight. We know this is, again, the election eve, the night before election day, and we hope that if there's anyone that's tuning in, watching this live, or gets to get a snippet of this before tomorrow, that hopefully you all feel the sense of community, and that you are not alone if there are moments of hesitation of, again, why voting matters or how you should participate. And I just want to, highlight the fact that not everybody living in America has this right and this privilege, right? There are so many individuals and families who are not able to exercise this voting right because of the status of their citizenship, right? And again, even if you are a undocumented or green card holder, or you're here on a U visa because of a domestic violence, or you're a refugee, these are still people in transition who are counting on folks like the Fresno Table partners and the volunteers that you're working with to connect with people who can exercise those rights to be able to have impact and change at this level, like Deep mentioned, right? This is not the only way to build power in the community, but is definitely one of the necessary ways because of how our democracy has been set up, right? And so just want to thank all of the amazing, again, speakers tonight, but know that there are entire teams behind these speakers, again, who've been boots on the ground, who've been phone banking every minute of a 4 or 5 hour, maybe even 8 hour shift, in the last 2 or 3 weeks, just doing this last get out the vote So thank you all for participating with us tonight, having this amazing community conversation to just get us a glimpse of what it's been like for all of you working with within the Fresno County area, which again, we want to highlight is such an important place in the state of California, but really national eyes are in this area because of some key congressional races, right, out on the ballot. And then of course, even though this is the midterm election, we have statewide officers, right, that are the top leaders within our state that are on the ballot this year. So congressional level, statewide level, down to the assembly, the Senate, even down to your local city council and school board seats. Everything that you care about is on the ballot this cycle, statewide propositions, local measures, all of that. So we are just excited that for those of you who are watching us, tuning in tonight, if you can just, again, tap into some of those friends and family members who have not turned in their ballot. And if they need to connect with any of the organizations from today till tomorrow, if they need help, right, whether that's language access or finding a vote center or just connecting with somebody that you really felt was moving today, right? I know Manita extended that, all of the partners here have a way to support you, whatever questions you might have. So please feel free to reach out and get some help individually tomorrow for anyone who might be having challenges to vote. And I think that just concludes us for tonight. We are at almost 7 o'clock, taking up 1 hour of your evening before Election Day, but hopefully this was helpful for folks who still have any questions. Again, we have all of our social media platforms and emails for you that are embedded in this invite that you can reach out to us after today. And hopefully you can stay connected with us after Election Day. The work doesn't end for the Fresno Table partners. We are pushing hard to the finish line tomorrow, and this is just the beginning of really looking at who's going to be elected, how are we holding them accountable, what are the decisions that they're going to make moving forward, and again, some of those local and statewide measures and propositions that are going to pass this election cycle, and what does that impact look like for our communities that we really care about. So stay tuned with the Fresno Table after Election Day. We look forward to connecting with all of you moving forward. And thank you for your time, everyone, tonight. Have a good night.